الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا صلى الله عليه وسلم عبد الله ورسوله أرسله ربه بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله. أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله تعالى وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ألا وإن كل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. I bear witness that there is none worthy of our worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Creator and the Sustainer. And I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, peace be upon him, is the seal of the prophets and the final messenger to all of humanity. Whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides, there is none to misguide. And whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala leads astray, there is none to guide right. أما بعد فاليوم إن شاء الله نكمل حديثنا الذي بدأناه في المرة الماضية وهو عن حقوق الزوجين واختيار الزوجة الصالحة حتى تنعم الأسرة المسلمة بالمودة والرحمة التي تكلم الله سبحانه وتعالى عنها في سورة الروم. وإذا لم توجد مودة ولا رحمة في الزواج وفي البيت المسلم فإن العلاقة الزوجية الأسرة المسلمة تتعرض للمشاكل وقد ينتهي الأمر للطلاق. So today, inshallah, we'll continue the discussion we started last time about the top 6 reasons why divorces happen in the Muslim community. I received a lot of cases for counseling, and I have done so for so many years, and I've come to the conclusion that these are the problems we have in the Muslim community in our homes, and we need to fix these things so we can live a good life together as a Muslim family. Of course, the wives have rights on their husbands, and the husbands have rights on their wives, and so on and so forth. And last time we spoke about the top 6 reasons why divorces happen and problems happen in the Muslim home. And today, inshallah, we'll talk briefly about the rights of the husbands and wives and the rights of the wives and the husbands based on what the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ teach. Of course, we're told in Islamic narrations that when Adam ﷺ was in Jannah, he was surrounded by angels all over the place. The angels were there. But Adam ﷺ felt lonely. He felt lonely, very lonely, because he wanted someone of his own to be with. And this is why they say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Hawa for him. So the Malaika around him were not enough because he wanted someone of his own kind. So Hawa or Eve was created for him, from him, as they say in the Islamic and also in some non-Muslim traditions. So they say that humans, we as humans, you find comfort in your spouse, in husband and wife. You find comfort in them, just like you find comfort in yourself. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُم مَّوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. One of the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of the miracles of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is that He created for us spouses, husbands and wives, from among ourselves, so we can find comfort in them, so we can also live with them in mawadda and rahmah. And this translates to love, mercy, and respect. Indeed, in this are signs for people who reflect. Created for you from yourselves. So as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the ayah, that He created your husband or your wife from yourself. And this is in fiqh. This is why in fiqh we studied why it is not permissible for a husband to give zakah or charity to his wife, because you don't give zakah to yourself. This is what they say in fiqh. You don't give charity to yourself because your wife is like yourself, from yourself. So this is why you're not allowed to give zakah or sadaqah to your wife. We said that the foundation of a successful marriage in Islam, the 6 things we spoke about last time, was number 1, the religion factor. The people have to be practicing the faith. They have to know the rights and their obligations in the marriage. And also they have to know what is permissible and what is not permissible in Islam. That's all you need to know to live a successful marriage life with your wife or with your husband. And we mentioned the hadith about the four things that are required, or the four things that people marry for. في أبي نعيم في الحلية, he mentioned the story of Sufyan ibn Uyayna to comment on the hadith تنكح المرأة لأربع, and he mentioned this hadith, and he mentioned the story that they say, or in this book of hadith, أبي نعيم في الحلية, it says a man came to Sufyan ibn Uyayna and says, I'm coming to you to أشتكي من فلان زوجتي فإني أحقر الأشياء عندها وأذلها. My wife mistreats me, she doesn't respect me, she humiliates me in front of everyone. فقال سفيان بن عيينة لعلك تزوجتها لتبتغي عندها عزة. يعني أنت تزوجتها من أسرة عالية وأنت تحت عشان ترفع نفسك فتزوجتها فصارت تتكبر عليك. قال نعم. So Sufyan ibn Uyayna said, you probably married her, she is from a very noble family, you are from the lower class, you married her just to earn or gain dignity or respect in the society through this marriage. He says, yes, Allah, this is what happened. So he says, فَأَذَلَّكَ اللَّهُ بِرَغْبَتِكَ فِي الْعِزِّ مِنْهَا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put you shame because of this. Then Sufyan ibn Uyayna told him, من طمع في العز أذله الله ومن طمع في المال أفقره الله ومن طمع في الدين أعزه الله وأغناه. So he told him, whoever is greedy for dignity, someone who marries another person only because they are just from a good family, even if they don't pray, they don't fast, and sometimes our standards go very low when we look for someone to marry. Someone will come and say, someone is proposing for my son or my daughter, and I ask them, do they pray? They say no, but they don't smoke. Alhamdulillah, they eat zabiha. Okay? This doesn't matter. What matters is they fulfill their obligations to Allah, to the people. They know what is right and what is wrong. They know their rights and their obligations. This is what we need in Islam. Whether the person smokes or not, this is a different story. Okay? So he told him, if you marry someone just to become dignified in the society, Allah will put you to shame. If you marry someone just because they are rich, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you poverty, He will make you poor. But if you marry someone because they are practicing, they are faithful, they are good Muslim, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you dignity, He will bless your wealth, and He will bless your family. Because as we said, there's nothing wrong Islamically if you marry the most beautiful woman in the world, or if you marry the best lady from the best family in town. But the person has to be practicing, and they have to know their rights and their obligations, right? So there's nothing wrong with that. Then Sufyan ibn Uyayna said, we are three brothers. My older brother is Muhammad, my younger brother is Marwan. The older married a lady from a rich family, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made him poor. They took all his money and they threw him in the street. My younger brother, he married the lady because she is from a very high family, noble family, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala disgraced him. They abused him. They were always looking down upon him and they threw him in the street. So when I was trying to get married, I asked the scholar, what should I do? He said, you don't ask anyone after hearing this hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, women are married for four different reasons: for beauty, for their wealth, for their status, and for their faith, the fact that they're practicing. So look for the person with faith. So he said, you don't ask anyone because the Prophet ﷺ said this, right? If you marry someone who is practicing, someone who knows their rights and their obligations, what is halal and what is haram, they will make your life easy. There are certain things you won't even have to talk about. Halal and haram and hijab and eating this or hanging out with that. And you don't have to worry about these things because it goes without saying. A person with faith, a person who knows what their obligations are and what is forbidden and what is permissible, they know these things. You don't have to start from the scratch to talk about these things, and it will make your life easy. There's this beautiful hadith in Sahih Bukhari. جبريل عليه السلام جاء إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وقال تأتيك خديجة رضي الله عنها تحمل إناء فيه طعام وفيه شراب فأبلغها السلام من الله، يعني قل لها إن الله يسلم عليك وإن الله يبشرك ببيت في الجنة من قصب يعني من لؤلؤ لا صخب فيه ولا نصب يعني لا تعب. تمام؟ سنشرح السبب إن هو بشرها بهذه البشارة. So in this beautiful hadith in Sahih Bukhari, Gabriel came to the Prophet ﷺ and said, in a short while, your wife Khadija will come to you from the other room. She's going to come to you with a plate with some food in it. So tell her that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you salam. Right? So now imagine if someone is telling you through the Prophet ﷺ that Allah mentioned you and he is giving you salam from him, he's giving you peace from him, the greetings of peace. Then tell her that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is promising her a palace in Jannah from pearls, and in that house there is no hardship and there is no noise. It's all peaceful, right? So when Khadija came and the Prophet told her the bishara or the good news from Allah, she started to cry. In the explanation of the hadith, they say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give her this palace of pearls in Jannah, in paradise, where in that place there is no hardship, there is no noise. They say because she never made things difficult for the Prophet. His life was not hard with her, and she never raised her voice to him. There was no noise in his house, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala paid her back in kind. So speaking about noise and speaking about hardship, I'm going to share a few stories that I've been through with in some counseling situations. One of them, a brother came and his wife, and because she was making things difficult for him. She's always telling him, the sister, mashallah, she's like a good sister. She prayed, she did everything, you know. But she's always looking at other sisters. She said, okay, this sister has a $25,000 car. I need a car like this, like my own sister. We need to buy a house like our neighbors. And he said, okay, you want to compare yourself to your sister, but your sister's husband is a doctor, I'm a barber, you know, I don't make as much, right? So you shouldn't ask me to buy you. He said, I bought her a $12,000 car, but she was not happy. She didn't even want to drive it because she felt like she's not as good as her sister, you know, and so on and so forth. And I told her about all these hadith. Why do you make it difficult for him? This is his ability, right? So don't ask him to do something beyond his means. So Khadija never asked the Prophet to buy something or to do something beyond his means. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave her this house where there's no hardship inside, because she didn't make things difficult for him. The other sister, the brother came and he was in tears. What happened? Winter time, 2013. What happened? He said, well, I drive trucks between Canada, Alberta, and the US, California, fruits and vegetables and stuff, and she has been bugging me for several years to buy a house. I bought her the house. I paid the last payment, khalas, and the house is in her name. Now she's kicking him out of the house. Oh, I don't love him anymore. Why, sister? Khalas, I don't love him anymore. But why didn't you say so before he bought you the house? Several days I was talking with the sister, trying to convince her, and eventually said, okay, he's allowed to stay, but in the basement. You're not allowed to go upstairs. You're not allowed to talk to... This is his house. What are you talking about? Right? Making things difficult for him. And he was always crying. You see, driving sleepless nights on the road in the difficult weather. I bought her the house after 6-7 years. I paid off everything. Now I'm being kicked out of the house. Okay. She's making things difficult for him. So this is the first one. She didn't make things difficult for him. And this is a good lesson for all the sisters who are asking their husbands to buy them stuff or to do things that are beyond their means. And the sister shouldn't be mad because I'm going to pick on the brothers in a couple of minutes, okay? Because they also do stuff. And also the noise. There was peace in the house of the Prophet ﷺ. There was no noise in the house, and this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving her peace in Jannah, in her palace. There's this story, of course, there are fights all the time, and the screaming and howling in the house, and the debates and the arguments and all that stuff. We know the stories. There's this story of the brother, of course, every day he and his wife, they fight and arguing and screaming in the middle of the night. So his neighbor said, "Ya Fulan, last night I heard the noise which I usually hear every night. We get sleep. Okay, what can we do? But last night there was something different. All the arguing and screaming in the middle of the night, but at the end, we heard a crash, like something fell down, like there was a crash, like boom, in the street. What happened?" He said, "After we fought with my wife, you know, with all the arguments and the screaming, she threw my pajamas from the window, from the second floor." He said, "But technically, if you throw a pajama from the second floor, it doesn't make that huge sound, all the noise." He said, "Well, I was inside the pajama." This is what happened. So making things difficult for the people and not giving them the peace in the house, this goes against the teachings of Islam. Now, inshallah, briefly we'll talk about the rights of the wives. Most of the speakers, they focus on the rights of the husbands on the wives, and some of them, sometimes they don't talk about the rights of the sisters. The sisters have rights on the husbands. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَلَهُنَّ مِثْلُ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَلِلرِّجَالِ عَلَيْهِنَّ دَرَجَةٌ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying in the Quran, and this is what the Prophet ﷺ says in خُطْبَةِ الْوَدَاعِ, the last speech that the Prophet ﷺ gave, he said that the wives have rights on their husbands and the husbands have rights on their wives. Of course, the first right for the wife, she has rights in Islam. This is her first right, that she has rights. Rights to provide for her, to take care of her, to treat her with dignity and respect, right? I don't want a sister to come to my office and tell me that my husband doesn't want to pay the rent, to pay for the groceries, or to pay for shopping. This is your job, right? This is your job. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, لِيُنْفِقْ ذُو سَعْةٍ مِّن سَعْتِهِ. It is the responsibility of the husband to pay, to provide according to his needs, right? And so on and so forth. The wife has rights, financial rights, and also emotional rights. I get calls from sisters, and I don't know what to do. She's telling me, well, my husband is in another country, or he goes to Fort Mac. He stays there for a year and two in some cases. I don't know where he is. I don't know what he is doing. He's not taking care of his kids. You know, we're not together as a husband and wife for that long. You know, and we know money is important, but I also have needs. I have desires. I don't know what to do. So this is not acceptable. You know, people are married because they have needs and they have desires, and you have to fulfill these desires, right? So you have to give them their rights, and they don't have to ask for it because this is guaranteed by Islam. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and alimana min al-qawm wa yafa'ala min alimana sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu, wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. About number two, the wife should be treated with respect and dignity. There's no hadith that suggests that the Prophet ﷺ was violent with his wife or wives. There's no hadith that suggests that the Prophet ﷺ beat his wife or abused his wife. All the hadith that say that he treated his wives and his family with respect and with dignity. So, caring for the feelings of the wife, right? Sometimes we get carried away when we talk about some stuff and we don't care about the feelings of the sisters. And we know that at some point the sisters go through difficult things in their daily lives on a daily basis, doing the dishes and cleaning, changing the diaper, taking care of the kids, cooking, cleaning, all these things. And on a monthly basis, when they have this time in the month, they're not emotionally stable, they go through difficulties. We as men, we have release for the stress in our life. And this is what the brothers are not able to understand. You go out most of the week, like 5 days in the week, you go out to work. The sisters are stuck in the house, and they have to deal with all the problems of the kids and the cleaning and all these difficulties. And this time in the month, right? So you have a release. You go to Tim Hortons, you play basketball, you go do whatever, and she's stuck in the house with all the problems.
and you just keep talking, okay, who changed this? Why didn't you put more salt in the food? Why didn't you? Come on, give her a break, man. You know, caring for the sister and caring for her feelings and emotions. Sometimes in the month, when we talk about these things and you're coming from outside and, okay, why didn't you cook the food, whatever, and you are hit with a broom, you have to be careful about what you say, because this time of the month, the sister is not, you know, emotionally stable. She has been through difficult things during the day, and you're just coming from outside like you don't know what is going on. So if you don't know, if you don't know what is going on, you have to stay a couple of days in the house. You deal with the kids and their trouble. Believe me, you will kill a kid every day. This is what most husbands will do. It is very tough to deal with kids. It goes crazy, you know? So you have to be careful about these things. You're talking to your wife, you don't care about her feelings. You start talking, oh, mashallah, we visited our neighbor, this brother, and his wife, mashallah, makes excellent food. You are innocent, you are gullible, you don't know what you are saying. This is very destructive to the sister. When you say something like this, there's a blender in her head, like, now she's making all the comparisons. Oh, he doesn't like my cooking skills. He doesn't like me. Because when you say something nice about another lady, okay, now she compares that lady to herself. Okay, we say all these things, or we don't pay attention, but the sisters, they keep these things in their heads. They are always thinking about these things. So caring for her feelings and emotions are very important in Islam. And the Prophet, there are hundreds of hadith that talk about these things and how he used to treat his family, care for their feelings, picking the right words to talk to them in order not to hurt their feelings in the most difficult of situations. Number 3, and this is a complaint that we always get from the sisters, that after we get married, of course before the marriage, you are visiting your in-laws every day, or taking them fruits, or taking them flowers, but after you get married, you're not even allowing your wife to go and visit her family, or to be nice to them, or to take care of them. Some say, if you go visit your family, I divorce you. Well, this is not acceptable Islamically. This is haram. Even if you say so, you still can call your family and visit them. Because you don't obey someone by disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as the Prophet says. Also, make your wife feel that you belong to this house. Your house is not a hotel. You don't go for services, you sleep overnight, then you leave. You belong to this house, so share. Take care of the kids, teach them something, right? Do the homework with them, right? You belong to, in your day off, cook a meal, even if you have to boil eggs or make tea, just to show your wife that you care, or take them outside for lunch. Just show them that you belong to this house and you care. You belong there. So this is another complaint. Also, if there is a situation where you have to correct your wife, or maybe correct your husband, don't talk in front of the kids, right? And don't raise your voice, or don't, you know, make your wife or your spouse, your wife or your husband look bad in front of the kids, in front of his family or your family. This kind of respect that we need in the relationship, because these things hurt the person deeply if they are treated this way in front of the family. Inshallah, the last thing I want to say, a lot of course, almost all the brothers, they like their wives to look good in front of them. The hair, the clothes, and the makeup, whatever, you know, it goes without saying. You want your wife to look good in front of you, because you go to work, you go to bride, you go to these places, and the ladies, mashallah, shayateen everywhere. You look to the right, they're coming toward you. You look to the left, up, down, behind, front. They're everywhere. So when you go home, you need to see something nice in front of you. So the sisters expect the same thing from you, because they go to places, they see people taking good care of them. And Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, he used to say, "Inni uhibbu an atazayyan li zawjati kama uhibbu an tatazayyan li." So Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu used to say, I love to look good in front of my wife in the house, just like I like my wife to look good in front of me. So now you expect your wife to look good, mashallah, taking care of herself, she looks sharp, and you're sitting there in the house in shorts and the pajamas, or whatever they call it, the white beater, whatever they call it. You look like a dragon, nobody can talk to you, you know what? No, you have to be like the Prophet, and he was smiling, He was in the service of the family, and he was patching his clothes, he was cleaning his clothes and his shoes, and he was helping in the house. But when it was time for salah, when it was time to pray, they said he left just like we didn't know him and he didn't know us. You know, we are together, but when it is time for salah in 5 or 6 minutes, this is the time for Allah, not for the family. I go to pray. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the best in this life and the life to come. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us sincerity in everything we say and do. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our good deeds and to forgive ourselves sins. نسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى أن يعلمنا ما ينفعنا وينفعنا ما علمنا. اللهم تعالى إنا نسألك في هذا اليوم العظيم المبارك لا تدع لنا ذنبا إلا غفرته ولا هما إلا فرجته ولا مريضا إلا شفيته ولا ميتا إلا رحمته ولا مظلوما إلا نصرته ولا ظالما إلا قصمته. وصل اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وأفضل الصلاة.